Alright, here it is, my collection video. Now, it's taken a few years and a bit of change, honestly, to amass this collection, and I can't wait to share this with you. Now, the Berserk Omnibus editions are a great way to read this dark fantasy story of a giant blade-wielding wanderer bent on revenge and fighting off the endless hordes of demons that don't even give him a moment to rest. I definitely love this one. It has great writing, fantastic art, and these omnibuses really make the story come alive. Blade of the Immortal is about a samurai that helps a young girl avenge the death of her parents. Now, these were on sale and I got them for a great price, and I cannot wait to start reading this one. And then we have Manga Theater. This is some of Akira Toriyama's short stories. Now, if you don't recognize that name, he's actually behind Dragon Ball. Then we have one of my favorite slice of lives, The Way of the House Husband. Now, this story is pretty simple, it's episodic, it's not really going anywhere, but it is something that I really love to just sit down and unwind to. High School of the Dead was a pretty great anime, and I wanted to see where the story goes after the anime ended. Now, I did pick up both full-colored hardcover editions, and gotta tell you, they look fantastic, and it adds a lot to the experience when you read. Of course, I had to get on Attack on Titan, the omnibus editions. Got tired of waiting for the hardcovers, so I went ahead and started getting these. Aside from the covers, everything else is top tier. I also picked up the Ghost in the Shell hardcover edition. Now, this is a very popular anime. The only thing is, the manga art's not really that impressive. But you have to consider it was made so many years ago. Now, Silent Voice was such a great movie. The story is very touching. The characters are really well written. This is definitely one of my favorite redemption stories. With just 3 volumes, I had to grab Hellsing. The deluxe editions look fantastic, page quality is great as well, and if you like heavy action with your vampire stories, this is the one for you. Now, Air Gears has been sitting on my shelf for a while. I kind of got discouraged on reading it because I heard it was so difficult to find the rest of the volumes. Tower of God I got because I absolutely love the anime, and I want to see where it goes, but I think the anime might hit before I get the next volume. And Sayuki is one that I got for a few bucks. Still need to read this one, but the art looks really great. And Alice in Borderlands is just one of my favorite series. If you're a big fan of death games, gripping stories, and really well written characters, I'd say this one's for you too. And of course, I had to have some of the Junji Ito titles of Tomei and Uzumaki. Great horror stories if you need something to keep you up at night. Alright, now you have my second chance shelf. In this box, you're going to see several series that I've read once, and I'm already considering dumping them. But the ones that are on their way out are The Hellbound, Dead Demons Destruction, The Abandoned Empress, The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife, Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, Your Turn to Die, a Spanish version of Fire Punch, Volume 2 that I got by mistake, and a Japanese version of One Piece, Volume 1. Censor is just one of the Junji Ito titles. I just couldn't make it past the first 2 pages. And Noise just didn't make any sense whatsoever. I didn't care about anything that was going on or any of the characters, just wasn't written well. And here we go, we got peak writing right here. Gantz, absolutely loved it. I was hesitant on picking up these omnibuses, but as you can see, I've read through them and no creases or anything. You know how to handle your omnibuses, you don't have to worry about creases. But the art is fantastic, story is gripping, I love it. I was a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and the card game, and of course I heard there was a manga, so I had to jump in and get it. Only thing is, this was a lot different than I expected because Yu-Gi-Oh! Was originally going to be a horror manga. In this collection I need to have Death Note, very popular series. Of course I had to have the black editions. And I did get the short stories on top. I haven't been able to finish Death Note yet. And then you got Full Metal Alchemist. I loved both animes that came out. And the hardcovers are so great to look at. Page quality is fantastic. It's already a banger series, and to have it in this format is just awesome. Then we got the grandfather of JoJo's. We have Fist of the North Star. Basically, if you like JoJo's and you're wanting more, this is one series to check out. I went and collected as many JoJo's as I could. I've only gotten up to part 3. As far as reading, I'm still in the middle of part 3 right now. Kind of feels like it's slowing down, but a lot of people tell me it gets a lot better towards the end. And I heard it was a spin-off series, but I went ahead and got it anyways. Now, Brides was a recommendation from Prom G, and it's absolutely fantastic story, and I need to get more. One of my favorite series that I finished this year is Summertime Rendering. This one had a pretty decent anime, but I prefer the manga, and these hardcovers were so fantastic. Really recommend this story, especially if you like something like Erased. Then you got Sakamoto Days. Now, if you take Way of the House Husband and add some more action to it, superhuman abilities, and a little battle shonen, you have this. Now, I am on volume 8, but this one is kind of dying off for me. If it doesn't pick up on the next volume, I think I might drop it. The NPCs in this village sim game must be real. It's a really fun, get your life back together kind of story involving video games. I recommend this one, but it is a little slow. Oshinoko, it's a fantastic anime, give it a watch. It's really faithful to the manga so far. I really haven't seen too many differences. This one kind of goes into the darker side of the entertainment industry. And of course, one of my new favorites is Dan. If you're a fan of supernatural tones, great chemistry between the main characters, a little bit of ecchi, and some really weird storytelling, I would say check this one out. Go Lose the Rangers is an interesting take on Power Rangers. What if they enslaved the Putty Patrol and made them perform every week with them? In this story, one of the putties actually shape changes into one of the Rangers and tries to infiltrate the team. Prom is another one of my favorite slice of lives. The story that begins at the end of a journey. It has some really sweet moments, some really interesting villains, and definitely kicks you in the emotions. It's an all-over great slice of life. Who can forget Kaiju number 8? If you're tired of those high school heroes, here you go. You have somebody that's actually in the workplace, in his 30s, and one day suddenly becomes a powerful kaiju. Colorless has been a pretty interesting story. If you like noir stories that are in a dystopian world with interesting new tech, I'd say check this one out. Now this is a manga that Dad Needs to Talk and I have been trying to push. Very interesting story into the effects of AI long term. Check it out. And of course, Die Dark. Now the art is something to get used to. Not that it's bad, it's just different. Only thing is the main character seems a little too overpowered. I would like that to be addressed in the next 2 volumes. Otherwise, I think I might drop it though. Now Dead Man Wonderland I absolutely loved as an anime, but there was no season 2. So if you're looking for some closure, this is definitely the way to finish it. You gotta love One Punch Man. The art is way better than you would think. I would actually say the art is better than the animation, but it's funny because you have an overpowered superhero that has just gotten over the fact that he can just one punch everyone. This one hasn't gotten boring because it really focuses on a lot of the side characters, and I think it's pretty well balanced, but I really recommend this one if you haven't already tried it out. From the creator of Gantz, you have Inuyashiki. Really interesting story of what happens when 2 people are given ultimate power, and the heroic and horrifying things that they'll do with it. A must read. Crazy food truck. If you like apocalyptic wastelands, food, and action, I'd say this one's for you. I really love this series. I can also appreciate that it got a decent ending, and it's only 3 volumes long, so there's not a big commitment to it. Tatsuki Fujimoto is one of my favorite mangakas, and I think I might have all his works, or at least most of them, but one of his earliest ones is Fire Punch. It's a really great read overall, especially if you're familiar and really like Chainsaw Man. This one should be for you. If you like Die Dark, this one is actually made by the same mangaka. This is the earlier work. It's called Dorohedoro. If you're not familiar with it, it actually has an anime that's on Netflix, I think. And again, the art style is something to get used to, but it is consistent. Real is actually one of the first sport mangas that I got into. It was funny, it was interesting, and it carefully explained a sport to me and actually made it really interesting to read about. Now I am sad that the volumes are pretty hard to come by, but I'm pretty sure they'll be printed, so I just need to wait. Parasite, yep, another great anime that I wanted to check out in manga form. And this one is kind of an action horror story. The anime for Hell's Paradise is out right now, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are loving it. I am too, so I went ahead and started getting the series. And it looks like the anime took a lot of influence from the manga. Might not be a good one to double dip unless you're wanting to see where the story goes after this season ends. I really love how Golden Kamui can be dead serious, but it knows how to lighten the moment, and it definitely knows how to make things tense. Now Solo Leveling was one of my first manhwas. What's not to love when you take the fantasy genre and add video game mechanics? Just got in volume 6 and can't wait to read it. Speaking of video games, I absolutely love Shangri-La Frontier. This one does have an anime coming up soon, but I'm trying to be a manga only on this one. So if you're looking for stories where the main character isn't really overpowered, but he uses his wits and resources to cleverly win his fights, and that's the type of storytelling I absolutely love. I also can't stop raving about the men who created Gundam. If you don't know anything about the original series or the troubles that they went through in order to put on the original anime, you can still read this without feeling you're missing something. Now there's really no action in there. It's basically a slapstick documentary on everything that happened when it came to putting on the original Gundam anime, and it's also packed with fun facts. Tokyo Revengers I watched, I liked, but haven't been able to continue watching or reading. This one might actually be on my chopping block, but I'll wait and see. Now Planets I got for the really great deal, and the series is only 2 volumes long. It's a space tale told by the mangaka who made Vinland Saga. Now I hear a lot of people ranting and raving about Goodnight Poon Poon, but honestly, it was a bit too depressing for me. I will say that it was written really well, but the themes in here can be a little depressing, and I heard it only gets worse, so this might go on the chopping block, but I might wait. Kaguya-sama Love is War, one of my favorite love stories. The anime is pretty close to the manga, but there are small stories that are left out here and there, so if you're wanting extra content, I'd say check this one out too. In Black Clover, you have a world filled with magic, and the main character Asta has no magic to begin with. But he comes across a new power that might turn the world on its head. Eden Zero was also a surprisingly fun read. In this story, they've basically taken this space theme and applied it to the fantasy genre. A lot of people say if you like fairy tale, you'll more than likely like this one. Yu Yu Hakusho is an older series. It's about the world of the afterlife and some of the roles people take that allow them to come back to the land of the living. I Am a Hero is a very fun ride. It is a main character that sees things that aren't really there, and in a world that is starting to be taken over by zombies, that could be an issue. The Heroic Legend of Arland. This one reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones, not only by the setting but also by the battlefield tactics and the political backstabbing. And if you love the art from Full Metal Alchemist, you'll be happy to know that this has the same artist. Mashl's a fun series. I really don't take it too seriously. I look at it as a spin on Black Clover, One Punch Man, and Harry Potter. Now, if you go in not expecting anything groundbreaking, I think you'll be happy with this. So I'm a Spider, So What? Started getting the manga after I watched the anime, which is really good until you get to the end of the season, where you started to see some production issues. I wanted to see where it went, and the manga is just barely catching up to where it's at. Mushoku Tensei is another great anime that I went ahead and got the manga for. Now, the manga is pretty close to the source material, but if you're wanting to get ahead of the anime, I'd probably say go ahead and get the manga, or better yet, the light novel. I really like Goblin Slayer. The only thing is, after the first volume, and you know how that ends, it really doesn't get scary from there. So I decided to start the manga, and I am noticing some extra content. This one does also have a light novel, but I'm not there yet. I do recommend this one though. This has to be my anime shelf because I absolutely love Black Butler as well as far as the anime goes. I hated season 2, and then everything else after that was pretty good. If you're wanting a really great sci-fi with not a lot of volumes to invest in, this is the one, and I really love how this one can keep you at the edge of your seat. Then I have Adam the Beginning. Honestly, I really need to start this one, but every time I pick it up, I automatically lose interest, which is a bad sign. Demon Slayer side stories. Now I gotta say, there is a night and day difference when it comes to the art when you compare it to the original series. But if you're done reading Demon Slayer and you're wanting more content, this is definitely a good pickup, as it goes over some side stories from the Hashira's point of view. Combatants will be dispatched. I don't think this manga is gonna get a season 2, so I went ahead and started with volume 1. But I will say, if you like Konosuba, you might like this one. How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift? It was a really funny anime, and I wanted more, so I went ahead and started collecting the series. And I really like the fitness tips that it throws in there as well. Time Stop Hero. For those of you who ever wondered what it's like to stop time in a fantasy world, this dude does about almost everything you'd think he'd do. Now, The Wicked Trapper Hunter, Hunter of Heroes, is one of the most brutal series I've read, and I read Berserk. Main character is isekai'd into a world and given saw abilities. Now, he's working with the demons against humans, and the manga's about him setting up traps throughout a dungeon. I don't recommend this if you have anything against extreme violence and gore. How to Build a Dungeon, Book of the Demon King. I'll just cut it short. This is a nasty man title. This says everything that you would think it has. Kururu Kill Me is one of the first mangas that I've ever done a review on. I love it because of how wacky it is. You have a billionaire that finds an assassin that he really likes, and the best way he can think of to get her to start talking to him is by hiring her to assassinate him. Blood on the Track is very well written. The only thing is, the mother and the son have a vibe that I am not comfortable with. I'm not sure where it goes, and despite the good writing, I'm still torn on whether or not to continue it. The Eminence in Shadow. I gotta be honest, the anime is fantastic. When it came to the light novel or the manga, they were really boring, up until the chapter where Sid actually converses with the princess. And I want to say that their chemistry is actually what kept me reading. That's how well it's written, and I'll continue the series just for that. A friend got this one for me, Yozakura Family. I still haven't read it, but it is going to be on my TBR. Alright, now Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. Fantastic story. If you like Battlestar Galactica, Volume 1 starts off just like that. Even though it's an older manga, the art is still great, story's even better. Girl from the Other Side has an absolutely gorgeous hardcover. A very sweet story of a monster type character taking care of a little girl. Highly recommend this one. Really great story and intense reading at points. Monster is a fantastic read. I don't care what anybody says. Story is interesting, and most importantly, the characters all have some of the greatest arcs that I've read. There's no one in the story that you would say is an extra, but this was so interesting I finished it in a matter of days. Vagabond has fantastic art. Love the story and how the characters are written. This is a wandering samurai story. Pays a lot of attention to side characters, which I also love. Now, Soul Eater was one of my favorite animes as well, but I heard that the ending wasn't the same as the manga, so I'm wanting to see where the anime and the manga split. And the hardcovers are beautiful. I was a little sad to see that Gangsta didn't get finished, so I decided to get the manga. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this has an ending, but I'm almost done. Glypnir is also an interesting anime. Not sure if it's going to get a season 2, but this one is pretty wild. It does have some adult content, and it can be a little confusing at times, as some of the characters look the same. Alright, so Delicious in Dungeon. It's a really good read if you're interested in dungeon crawlers with gourmet food. Art's great and the story's pretty hilarious. Another funny read is The Breaker. I really like this because of how funny it can be and how great the action is drawn. One of my first mangas is Spy Family. Love the series and I'm pretty happy with the anime. One of my new favorites is Slam Dunk. Did not expect to like a sports manga this much, but it's funny, well written, and has some great dialogue. Nana was a very interesting ride, especially when it came to collecting it. There has been another reprinting and I was able to get the volumes that I was missing. This one has good art and really great chemistry between a lot of the characters. Chainsaw Man. This is another one of my first manga, but I think this one is worth reading all the way through volume 11. My feelings are mixed on part 2. Jujutsu Kaisen is just one of those series that I know I'm gonna love, so even though I'm not caught up, I'm still up to date on collecting the volumes. Now, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, so I had to go for Dragon Ball Super as well. Really impressed with the anime, especially how long it went without any interruptions. And so far I'm definitely enjoying the manga, and there are some differences between that and the anime. I think everyone needs to read Vinland Saga. You have an amazing Viking story. This one keeps you entertained and at the edge of your seat through most of the series. Neon Genesis Evangelion. I started reading this one, but I took a break after I read volume 2. Now I'm on the fence with Homunculus. It's great writing, has great art, and an interesting concept. There are some decisions that one of the main characters makes that are definitely outside my comfort zone to read. I do think everyone should read this and decide for themselves whether or not to continue with volume 2. Arakawa Under the Bridge. Very cute idea, and a sweet love story with some zany characters. This one's been a pretty good comfort read for me, and I do recommend it. And from the creator of Monster, I also have Asadora. Now the cover really didn't seem like anything interesting, but as soon as you opened it, you're intrigued about what's going on, and the story just gets better from there. This did go on hiatus a while ago. Now I really love Naoki Urasawa. He's another one of my favorite mangakas, so even though I haven't read this one, I started collecting the series because I've loved everything else I've read. My Dress Up Darling is a very sweet story about two people that lift one another up and push each other to grow in their interest and help them achieve their goals. I enjoyed Psalm 100 in the beginning, but as the volumes go, I feel like it should have stopped at volume 6. However, the anime just dropped, and I think it's a great adaptation, so I might continue this one through the anime. Witch Hat Adelaide has a very interesting take on how magic works and it's used. This one has gorgeous art and a very sweet and innocent story so far. Wotakoi Love is Hard for an Otaku is definitely a fun office romance. I love the witty banter between all the characters and also all the otaku Easter eggs throughout the series. And I can really appreciate that it explains some of them that I didn't understand at the end of each chapter. Twin Star Exorcist is another fun one, where I'm at it kind of seems like it's going into a battle shonen story, but so far I've been enjoying this one. Now I'm pronouncing this one Demons of the Shadow Realm. Could be wrong, but let me know. I did like this story, but not a lot. I am going to give this a couple more volumes, but this is from the creator of Full Metal Alchemist, and I've loved their prior work, so I feel like I owe them a couple of volumes in order for them to cook the story. Now I'm kind of on the fence with the Jin. Had an interesting concept and story. The only thing is that I got confused a few times while reading some of the dialogue. That does get annoying for me, but it's not a deal breaker. I really love how Shadow House can be creepy, mysterious, and enjoyable, and beautifully drawn. Now I got this one as a physical, just because I want to read it with my kids. Saga of Tanya the Evil had a fantastic anime, and I want to see how different the manga is. Real Account surprised me with how much I enjoyed the story. That goes over the dangers of social media, and I really love how it points out a lot of the hypocrisies with social media and the wild things people do for attention. Now Yashiman is a canceled series, but I'm still wanting to check it out. It does remind me of Tokyo Ghoul, and Food Wars so far is almost frame by frame what you would see in the anime. I'm starting volume 3, and I think I'm starting to see some differences. Hopefully I see a little more going forward, but I do recommend this foodie type of manga. And LDK is for those of you who like to read about cheeky guys that are playful with the main character, but also sweet and romantic. The Executioner and Her Way of Life. Now someone talked me into getting Queen's Quality, but I later found that you needed to read the 3 volumes of QQ Sweeper in order to start it. So I do have volumes 2 and 3, now I just gotta wait for volume 1. All my friends are raving about it, so I decided to get it, Yona the Dawn. This one seemed to be pretty close to the anime, but it doesn't look like a season 2 is coming. And I can't lie, this one was really good. Now Honey Lemon Soda was a recommendation from my friend Laura. The only thing is I've only been able to make it past a couple of chapters, but it did promise I would read this one. I didn't expect the story that was inside Not Your Idol, but this one reminds me of Oshinoko, as it goes over some dark topics in the idol industry. Maid Sama just reminds me of Taming of the Shrew, and I really enjoyed that movie growing up. I don't know of many people who don't like Horimiya. It's a down-to-earth love story where you have two people that are open and honest with each other, and there's no silly tropes where there's a misunderstanding that causes a huge blow-up. Any issue that comes up, but in a very sweet and emotional way. Now, many of you are getting into My Happy Marriage, and I will say that the anime is doing it justice. The animation is beautifully done, so is the voice acting. But if you want some extra content, I would say maybe look into the light novel. Daily Report About My Witch Senpai is a sweet story, but it also covers some pretty serious topics that caught me off guard. The Ancient Magus Bride is is almost a staple when it comes to shoujo collections, but it's beautifully drawn, and even though the story can be dark at times, it has heart-touching light moments. Snow White with the red hair, another series I wish they had a season 2 for. I love how they wrote the main character, as she can be strong and resourceful, but also vulnerable. Definitely recommend this one too. Now after watching Tokyo Ghoul, I had to read the manga. And yes, there are some differences, and I am enjoying this more than I did the anime. So if you're gonna check this series out, I would recommend the manga over the anime. Now I saw Kakaguri on Netflix, and it did catch my attention, and I saw the games to be really interesting, and the main character was a delight. And yes, it does have a bit of fan service, but I did enjoy it. Grand Blue Dreaming is a funny beach story. Only thing is, everyone talked about it being the funniest manga out there, but I only found it okay. Nightfall Traveler's story is sweet, yet an eerie slice of life, where two students go to haunted areas in their town. Goodbye Eerie, another one of Tatsuki Fujimoto's one-shots. If you like Chainsaw Man, you'll love this one. Now Look Back was another one of Tatsuki Fujimoto's, and I would say if you liked Fire Punch more than you did Chainsaw Man, you might like this one better. Another one from Tatsuki Fujimoto, it's a lot of his side stories, 1721. Now if you like Delicious in Dungeon, Drifting Dragons is almost the same. When people hunt dragons, they make gourmet meals out of them. Now if you liked Hell's Paradise, Tsugumi Project gonna be right up your alley. Follows the same kind of storyline and has some pretty decent art. I'm really loving Villains Are Destined to Die. In this all-color manhwa, you have a character that's reborn into an otome game, and it's kind of showing her descent into villainy, and so far it's been a very satisfying read. Now another one of Urasawa's works is Pluto. Now this one does take place in a world similar to the one of Astro Boy, but makes it a murder mystery where you have someone ending several high-profile AI units. Sweat and Soap is a good story if you're wanting something sweet and a little spicy. Ikigami: The Ultimate Limit is an insane sleeper hit for me. Someone sold it to me as a Law and Order type of story, but it's so much more than that. If you like stories set in dystopian worlds from different people's point of view in that world, this would be for you. Shojin X is from the mangaka that brought you Tokyo Ghoul. Now this does seem like a little lighter version of Tokyo Ghoul. It's still dark, but it has a lot more light moments. I stayed on the fence on Blue Lock for a while, but it got recommended to me so much that I decided to look into it. And I've loved the series so far. It successfully mixes death games and sports. I've always heard about Ultraman, so I decided to check out this newer series, and we'll say it's good, but it's really at the bottom of my list to continue. Under Ninja is another one of my new favorites. I haven't really read anything about ninjas lately. This one has a really amazing art, and definitely a fun read. The Witch and the Beast? This series feels a little slow, but I am still interested. The villains are deliciously evil, and it can get brutal sometimes. I am enjoying Mobile Suit Gundam Origin, and I heard a lot of good things about Thunderbolt. Gotta love the art in this one. Assassination Classroom is another one of those animes that I enjoyed and I also want to see how it ends. This is a fun take on the whole isekai genre, where it's been made a sport to speedrun worlds as you're isekai'd into them. And of course I had to get the Demon Slayer box set. This is one of the first series I actually read all the way through. I do recommend this for beginners, but it is filled with plot holes and the art's not that great. But I will say that the anime is 10 times better. Now Bakuman's that series that I think everyone has, but no one's really read it. But I would say if you're interested in how manga works and how it's produced, this is something to check out. Now it is kind of a slow read, but it is filled with a lot of good information, and the story is really well written as well. I absolutely love this. I just wish I could read it faster, so I had to get One Piece. It's a staple with a lot of the collectors. I didn't like it in the beginning because it started off with the anime, but honestly when I started reading the manga, the pace was so much better, and I enjoyed it so much more. So I definitely recommend the manga over the anime. Now I did get tired of My Hero Academia, but I'm hoping, just like One Piece, that the manga is more enjoyable and has a better pace. Now Oran Host Club is one of the first manga gifts my wife gave me. She got this because I love the anime, and she knew that the manga went in a different direction. And of course, growing up with Dragon Ball Z, I had to get the box set of this as well. And I have noticed some differences between the anime and the manga. Now when Claymore came back in stock, I jumped on that one, and this was a really fast read. This one's kind of a lighter version of Berserk, and I definitely recommend this one. Now Frank and Fran reminds me a lot of Tales from the Crypt. Even though it has an alluring cover, it is a horror manga. So if you're not comfortable with body dysmorphia, I'd probably stay away from it. But I have enjoyed it so far. I just don't like that it's episodic and it doesn't really have any stakes. Now if you didn't get enough Parasite from the anime or from the manga, you have some side stories here. You have Parasite M and you also have Parasite F. And if you love the video game Elden Ring, get excited. There's a pretty hilarious gag manga. The art's really good, and the first volume is full of Easter eggs. This one was a very enjoyable read, and even though it's a gag manga, I wanted to continue. Moriarty the Patriot is a story of Sherlock Holmes' nemesis, Moriarty. Heard a lot of great things about this one, and even though I got it from my wife, I will be reading this one. Dark Gathering just came out with an anime, and it's pretty close to the source material, so it's kind of an either or. Smoking Parade reminds me a lot of Dead Man Wonderland and is the same type of violence. Kowloon's another dystopian story with a romantic twist, and there are some things that happen that make it also a mystery. I'll leave that for you to find, but I definitely recommend this series too. A fun twist on the isekai genre, where the demon lord is actually resurrected and put into a weaker body, and he's having to start back from square one. This one has great art, and I'm really loving the story so far. Now, one of the sales clerks at Kinokuniya talked me into buying this one, Noragami, and I plan on reading this one soon. This video will help you avoid the mistakes I made while starting my collection, and possibly save you a ton of time and cash.